go.
That's a good thumbnail.
Caterpillar. Not a squirrel. It's a squirrel's tail. There's a difference. Let's see. Blah, blah. Novel homework, which you can find on MrBrovicast.com. It's already posted. For those of you who haven't picked up the sheet and need a way of getting it.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. Not due till Wednesday of next week. And once again, we'll be highlighting and having you guys tell us about the stuff from there. Ooh, I think I added in some pictures from yesterday. So we have Paul Newman, who is the movie star that he talks about, and I did the, I threw in the car doc from Cars, telling you guys out. And if you have parents that eat a lot of salads, he also owns the Newman's Own salad dressing.
That was him.
That's the same guy. I threw that up there too, trying to help you out, so that's who they're talking about. Who drives the red Corvair? Socius. Who wears the Madras? Good job again. Who are the greasers?
The greasers.
Bad question, right? Socius and I threw up the cocked eyebrow for you.
Oh, that's so
Why Buzz Lightyear?
Talks about the, because he has the cocked eyebrow going right there. When he does the Spanish one.
Oh, yeah.
I like this.
And so that's the, and I don't know who that person is, but it's a great eyebrow. So it gives you, and apparently that guy likes to live in phone booths. And so you have the good job, that's what I'm to you. And so that's what cocked eyebrow he does. It talked about the cowlick that was on Derry's hair, so I did a little cowlick thing up there so he looks adorable. Cowlicks when the hair's too And then I threw up, they talk about Two-Bit being like Will Rogers, and so I threw up the pictures of Will Rogers and then quotes from him because he was famous for his witty quotes. And then we have knife. What happened to you? You scared me again. You even knew it was fake.
No, but
Yes.
I wasn't ready.
That's the whole point here. If you're ready for it, it doesn't work. And so we had to talk about which character has the switchblade.
Socius.
No.
No, the greaser.
Well, they talk about the fact that Two-Bit has one.
Boys have them.
The boys have them, is correct.
Girls are too big.
Does now.
But
What about the wine opener or whatever?
It's a bottle opener, I don't know why it was a corkscrew.
yeah, I liked that one.
Sure.
That looked really cool. No, wait, there's the bottle opener one, and then there's that one, and then you have one.
That I have the hair from. Oh.
Oh,
yeah,
that's the
Butterfly thing again, that's really cool.
That's the one that Socius has.
What's known as
They look orange.
a caterpillar brush.
Something that doesn't stab you.
Oh yeah, you can brush your caterpillar.
Oh yeah, and it doesn't stab you. I almost said
Butterfly again.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
You can't scare me. I'm the Cookie Monster.
And these are the ones you can actually have. I mean, not that you should go around stabbing people today, but these are the ones that are, like, for the most part, legal because you, I mean, it was the spring-loaded, and those are the ones that make it dangerous because you can just basically, if you have the other one, you can just walk up and just chink and like shoots into someone. Apparently that's bad.
This one you have to like.
Having
Yeah.
a knife in your pocket is all
It takes
bad.
longer to stab. a person.
You'd be like a ninja before you stab him. You'd be like,
We got
You're like,
two.
"Aw, chop."
There we go. Page 10 is where we left off. We can pick up from there.
Sorry, my cardigan was
Embarrassing. So you can still continue to the highlighting and the marking down the people and stuff like that as we go through. She's a horrible person. Just get used to it. If I had to pick the real character of the game, it'd be. Wait, I have the next screen. There we go. The real character of the game, it'd be Dallas Winston, Dally. Oh, I used to like to draw his picture when he was in a dangerous mood, for then I could get his personality down in a few lines. He had an elfish face with high cheekbones and a pointed chin, small, sharp animal teeth, and ears like a lynx. His hair was almost white, it was so blonde. He didn't like haircuts or hair oil either, so it fell over his forehead in wisps, and kicked out in the back in tufts, and curled behind his ears and along the nape of his neck. His eyes were blue, blazing ice, cold with a hatred of the whole world. Dally had spent 3 years on the wild side of New York and had been arrested at the age of 10. He was tougher than the rest of us. Tougher, colder, meaner. The shade of difference that separates a greaser from a hood wasn't present in Dally. He was as wild as the boys in the downtown outfits, like Tim Shepard's gang. In New York, Dally blew off steam in gang fights. But here, organized gangs are rarities. They're just small bunches of friends who stick together. And the warfare is between the social classes. A rumble, when it's called, is usually born of a grudge fight, and the opponents just happen to bring their friends along. Oh, there are a few named gangs around, like the River Kings and the Tiber Street Tigers. But here in the Southwest, there's no gang rivalry. So Dowie, even though he could get into a good fight sometimes, had no specific thing to hate, no rival gang, only socias. And you can't win against them, no matter how hard you try, because they've got all the breaks, and even whipping him isn't going to change the fact. Maybe that's why Dallas was so bitter. He had quite a reputation. They have a file on him down at the police station. He'd been arrested, he got drunk, he rode in rodeos, lied, cheated, stole, rolled drunks, jumped small kids. He did everything. I didn't like him, but he was smart, and you had to respect him. Johnny K was last and least. If you can picture a little dark puppy that's been kicked too many times and is lost in a crowd of strangers, you'll have Johnny. He was the youngest, next to me, smaller than the rest, with a slight build. He had big black eyes and a dark tanned face. His hair was jet black and heavily greased and combed to the side, but it was so long it fell in shaggy bangs across his forehead. He had a nervous, suspicious look in his eyes. The beating he got from the socials didn't help matters. He was the gang's pet, everyone's kid brother. His father was always beating him up, and his mother ignored him, except when she was hacked off at something, and then you could hear her yelling at him clear out our house. I think he hated that worse than getting whipped. He would have run away 1,000,000 times if we hadn't been there. If it hadn't been for the gang, Johnny would never have known what love and affection are. I wiped my eyes hurriedly. Did you catch him? No, they got away this time, the dirty... Two-Bit went on cheerfully, calling the socials every name he could think of or make up. Kids okay? I'm okay. I tried to think of something to say. I'm usually pretty quiet around people, even the gang. I changed the subject. I didn't know you were out of the cooler yet, Dally. Good behavior. Got off early. You guys know what the cooler is? Jail. He was in jail. He was coolie off, cooler. Dallas lit a cigarette, handed it to Johnny. Everyone sat down to have a smoke and relax. A smoke always lessens the tension. I'd quit trembling and my color was back. The cigarette was calming me down. Two-Bit cocked an eyebrow. It's a nice looking bruise you got there, kid. I touched my cheek gingerly. Really? Two-Bit nodded sagely. It's a nice cut, too. Makes you look tough. Tough, tough and tough are two different words. Tough is the same as rough. Tough means cool, sharp, like a tough-looking Mustang or a tough record. In our neighborhood, both are compliments. Steve flicked his ashes at me. What were you doing walking by your lonesome? Leave it to good old Steve to bring up something like that. I was coming home from the movies. Well, I didn't think. Well, you don't ever think, Gary broke in. Not at home or anywhere when it counts. You must think at school with all those good grades you bring home, and you've always got your nose in the book. But do you ever use your head for common sense? No siree, bub. And if you did have to go by yourself, you should have carried a blade. I just stared at the hole in the toe of my tennis shoe. Me and Derry just didn't dig each other. I never could please him. He would have hollered at me for carrying a blade if I had carried one. If I brought home B's, he wanted A's. If I got A's, he wanted to make sure they stayed A's. If I was playing football, I should be in studying. And if I was reading, I should be out playing football. He never hollered at Soda Pop. Not even when Soda dropped out of school or got tickets for speeding. He only hollered at me. Soda was glaring at him. Leave my kid brother alone, you hear? It ain't his fault he likes to go to the movies. It ain't his fault the socials like to jump us. And if he had been carrying a blade, it would have been a good excuse to cut him to ribbons. Soda always takes up for me. Derry said impatiently, when I want my kid brother to tell me what to do with my other kid brother, I'll ask you, kid brother. But he laid off me. He always does when Soda Pop tells him to. Well, most of the time. Next time you get one of us to go with you, pony boy, Two-Bit said. You know, any of us will. Speaking of movies, Dally yawned, flipping away his cigarette butt. I'm walking over to the nightly double tomorrow night. Anybody want to come and hunt some action? Steve shook his head. Me and Soda are picking up Evie and Sandy for the game. He didn't need to look at me the way he did right then. I wasn't going to ask if I could come. I'd never tell Soda because he really likes Steve a lot. But sometimes I can't stand Steve Randall. I mean it. Sometimes I hate him. Derry sighed, just like I knew he would. Derry never had time to do anything anymore. I'm working tomorrow night. Dally looked at the rest of us. Well, how about y'all? Two-Bit? Johnny Cake? You and Pony want to come? Well, me and Johnny will come, I said. I knew Johnny wouldn't open his mouth unless he was forced to. Is that okay, Derry? Yeah, since it ain't a school night. Derry was real good about letting me go places on the weekends. On school nights, I could hardly leave the house. I was planning on getting boozed up tomorrow night, Two-Bit said. If I don't, I'll walk over and find y'all. Steve was looking at Dally's hand. His ring, which he'd rolled a drunk senior to get, was back on his finger. You break up with Sylvia again? Yeah, and this time it's for good. That little broad was two-timing me again while I was in jail. By the way, they're going to talk about rolling people a couple times. When you roll someone, usually it's rolling a drunk. You go somewhere where people drink a lot of alcohol, a party, and then you wait till someone gets so much alcohol in them that they're so drunk that they just pass out and they fall down. And then you walk over to them and you roll them over and you rob them. And then you just steal whatever they have. So apparently that's what Dally likes to do, is he likes to go to parties, wait for people to get drunk, and then he robs them and takes all their stuff. And so they're mentioned that a number of times, and that's one of the options. He also jumps people, and jumping someone is not beating them up. Jumping them is when you and a bunch of your friends hide somewhere, and you wait for them to walk by, and then you jump out. Imagine Thistle screaming. You jump out, and then all 5 or 6 of you all beat them up at the same time. You kick them while they're on the ground. And that's jumping someone.
Ouch.
So sort of like what the Socias tried to do to Ponyboy. Where you pull up and you jump out and you run over them and you start kicking them while they're on the ground. That's jumping someone. That's one of Dally's favorite activities that he'll get to. Dally's not what you would call a good person. He makes bad choices. But he's a friend. What are you going to do? I thought of Sylvia and Evie and Sandy and Two-Bit's mini blondes. They were the only kind of girls that would look at us, I thought. Tough, loud girls who wore too much eye makeup and giggled and swore too much. I liked Soda's girl Sandy just fine, though. Her hair was natural blonde, and her laugh was soft, like her china blue eyes. She didn't have a real good home or anything. It was our kind, Greaser. She was a real nice girl. Still, lots of times I've wondered what other girls were like. The girls who were bright-eyed, had their dresses a decent length, and acted as if they'd like to spit on us if given a chance. Some were afraid of us, and remembering Dallas Winston, I didn't blame them. But most looked at us like we were dirt, gave us the same kind of look that the Socias did when they came by in their Mustangs and Corvairs and yelled, "Grease!" at us. I wondered about them. The girls, I mean. Did they cry when their boys were arrested like Evie did when Steve got hauled in? Or they run out on them the way Sylvia did Dallas? But maybe their boys didn't get arrested or beaten up or busted up in rodeos. I was still thinking about it while I was doing my homework that night. I had to read Great Expectations for English, and that kid Pip, he reminded me of us. The way he felt marked lousy because he wasn't a gentleman or anything. And the way that girl kept looking down on him. Well, that happened to me once. One time in biology, I had to dissect a worm and the razor wouldn't cut. So I used my switchblade. The minute I flicked it out, I forgot what I was doing or I never would have done it. This girl right beside me kind of gasped and said, "They're right, you are a hood." That didn't make me feel so hot. There were a lot of Socias in that class. And I get put into A classes because I'm supposed to be smart. And most of them thought it was pretty funny. I didn't, though. She was a cute girl. She looked real good in yellow. We deserve a lot of our trouble, I thought. Dallas deserves everything he gets. And should get worse, if you want the truth. And Two-Bit, he doesn't really want or need half the things he swipes from stores. He just thinks it's fun to swipe everything that isn't nailed down. I can understand why Soda Pop and Steve get into drag races and fight so much, though. Both of them have too much energy and too much feeling, no way to blow it off. "Rub harder, Soda," I heard Derry mumbling. "You're going to put me to sleep." I looked at the door. Soda Pop was giving Derry a back rub. Derry's always pulling muscles. He roofs houses, and he's always trying to carry 2 bundles of roofing up the ladder. I knew Soda would put him to sleep because Soda can put about anyone out when he sets his head to it. He thought Derry worked too hard anyway. I did too. Derry didn't deserve to work like an old man when he was only 20. He'd been a real popular guy in school. He was captain of the football team. He'd been voted Boy of the Year. We just didn't have the money for him to go to college, even with the athletic scholarship he won. And now, he didn't have time between jobs to even think about college. So he never went anywhere, never did anything anymore, except work out at gyms and go skiing with some old friends of his sometimes. I rubbed my cheek where it turned purple. I looked in the mirror. It did make me look tough, but Derry made me put a Band-Aid on the cut. I remembered how awful Johnny had looked when he got beaten up. I had just as much right to use the streets as the socialists did. Johnny never hurt them. Why did the socialists hate us so much? We left them alone. I nearly went to sleep with my homework trying to figure it out. Soda Pop, who jumped into bed by this time, yelled sleepily for me to turn off the light and get to bed. When I finished the chapter I was on, I did. Lying beside Soda, staring at the wall, I kept remembering the faces of the socialists as they surrounded me, that blue Madras shirt the blonde was wearing. I could still hear a thick voice. Need a haircut, greaser? I shivered. Are you cold, Pony Boy? A little, I lied. Soda threw one arm across my neck, mumbled something drowsily. Listen, kiddo, when Derry hollers at you, he don't mean nothing. He's just got more worries than somebody his